Sorry, but it's too late for a sequel to White Chicks, but not for the reason you think. The crime comedy White Chicks has become a cult classic after not being well received during its initial release, but it's too late to bring Marcus, Marlon Wayans, and Kevin Copeland, Shawn Wayans, back. The 2000s saw the rise of a very specific type of comedy movies that were quite popular, though not everyone was on board with their sense of humor. This decade also saw various movies by the Wayans brothers, such as the first two Scary Movie films, White Chicks and Little Man. Released in 2004, White Chicks follows brothers Marcus and Kevin Copeland, FBI agents who, when their mission to protect heiresses Tiffany, Ann Dudak, and Brittany Wilson, Maitland Ward, goes wrong, they disguise themselves as them. The Copelands are black, and the Wilson sisters are white. In the process, they must discover who is behind the plan to kidnap the Wilson sisters. White Chicks was a critical failure, but performed well at the box office. And now, 21 years later, it's a lot closer to getting a sequel, but it's too late for the return of the Copelands. White Chicks 2 has taken too long to happen. White Chicks was called by critics too silly, obvious, and racist, and criticized the unconvincing prosthetics the Copelands wear when posing as the Wilson sisters. Still, White Chicks' box office performance, along with its popularity with the general audience, ignited talks about a sequel a couple of years after its release. In 2009, a sequel to White Chicks was announced to be in development, but it was canceled some time later. In 2018, White Chicks 2 was once again said to be in the works. Terry Crews confirmed the sequel in 2019 and his openness to reprise his role as Latrell Spencer, though Marlon Wayans later said that the information on White Chicks 2 wasn't meant to leak, and they didn't have a deal yet. The latest update about White Chicks 2 comes from Marlon Wayans, who, in February 2025, told Good Morning America, via MovieWeb, that once they are done with Scary Movie 6, White Chicks 2 will be next. However, if we're being realistic, it's now too late to make White Chicks 2 happen. The Wayans are 20 years older now, and whether they turn into the Wilson sisters again or not, it will be very hard to believe and accept that they are playing young socialites again. Leading aside the white face and racism debate around White Chicks, which might not make a sequel very popular nowadays, White Chicks 2 is arriving too late for other reasons. Part of the entertaining absurdity of White Chicks 2 is how the Copelands were able to fool so many people into thinking they were the Wilson sisters when they didn't look like them at all. However, the Wayans are 20 years older now, and whether they turn into the Wilson sisters again or not, it will be very hard to believe and accept that they are playing young socialites again. The whole point of White Chicks is the Copelands posing as two completely different people in every possible way, but that's a hard concept to sell 2 decades after the movie's release. It's not just that white face might not be as tolerated now as it was in the 2000s, but that even in the world of White Chicks, the Copelands pretending to be younger or the Wilson sisters again just wouldn't work. White Chicks 2 could address modern themes but needs a new cast. If White Chicks 2 truly happens, it would have to have some key changes so it can succeed, or at least not die trying. Bringing the Wilson sisters back wouldn't work in White Chicks 2 because the world and its sources of entertainment have changed a lot in 20 years. Socialites aren't as popular as they were in the 2000s, and thus there isn't the same interest in them, but White Chicks 2 can change its focus to influencers. However, and reinforcing the previous point, the Wayans would now be too old to believably sell the idea of them posing as younger women. White Chicks 2 would work better with a younger cast, with the Wayans reprising their roles as Marcus and Kevin, but now as mentors, or even the Bozes, to new FBI agents. The Copelands can share their wisdom and experience from that one time they disguised themselves as the Wilson sisters with younger FBI agents, while giving White Chicks 2 a fresh twist,